Your surname might be the most valuable inheritance you never knew you had. Because inside modern DNA studies of English and Scottish families, one signature keeps surfacing again and again. It belongs to the Norman knights who crossed the English Channel with William the Conqueror in the autumn of 1066, seized this island by sword, and stamped their bloodlines into 15 ordinary-sounding family names, still carried by millions of American men today. From the proven companions of William at the Battle of Hastings to the Norman knight whose descendants would one day sit on the Scottish throne, these are the 15 surnames that DNA and the Domesday Book now trace straight back to the conquerors of England. And you need to stay until number 1. Because the last name on this list still holds a great castle in northern England to this very day. Number 15. Ferris, also spelled Ferrers, Ferrar, Ferrer, and Ferrer. The name comes from Ferrers Saint-Hilaire in Normandy, a village whose name means the ironworks, where a Norman family had grown wealthy forging horseshoes and iron weapons long before William was even a duke. Their leader, Henry de Ferrers, crossed with the Conqueror and was rewarded on a scale most of his fellow knights could only dream about. When the Domesday Book was compiled in 1086, Henry de Ferrers is recorded as holding 210 manors across England, more than almost any other baron in the kingdom. His descendants would be created Earls of Derby, seat one of the great Norman power blocks in the Midlands, and build the fortress of Tutbury Castle in Staffordshire. If your name is Ferris, or Ferrer, or Ferrers in any spelling, your bloodline was forged in the ironworks of Normandy and carried across the Channel behind William the Conqueror himself. Number 14. Mowbray, the most soldierly of Norman names. It comes from the village of Mowbray in the Manche region of Normandy, and the man who carried it into England was no ordinary knight. Geoffrey de Mowbray, Bishop of Coutances, rode at Hastings on the 14th of October, 1066, and is named as a participant in that battle by William of Poitiers, one of the 3 unchallenged contemporary sources historians accept for the role of William's men. Geoffrey was a warrior bishop who blessed the Conqueror's army in the morning and swung a mace beside it in the afternoon. His nephew Robert de Mowbray was later made Earl of Northumbria. Their descendants would go on to become Dukes of Norfolk, the highest-ranking dukedom in the English peerage below the royal family itself. If your name is Mowbray, your bloodline was carved out of a Norman village whose knights swore oaths at an altar and drew blood on the same day. Number 13. Malet, also spelled Mallet, Mallet, and Mallet. This is a proven companion name, one of the 15 surnames Cocaine's complete peerage accepts as belonging to men who were with William at Hastings itself. William Mallett, Lord of Greville in the Pays de Caux region of Upper Normandy, fought that day and is named in the Chronicle of William of Poitiers. When the battle ended and Harold Godwinson lay dead on the field, it was William Mallett whom the Conqueror chose to take charge of the fallen English king's body. Harold's own mother is said to have offered its weight in gold to have him back for burial. Mallett refused her and buried Harold under Norman authority. Later he was made Sheriff of Yorkshire and given a huge castle at Eye in Suffolk. If your name is Mallett, your bloodline stood inside William's camp when the last Anglo-Saxon king of England was placed in the ground. Number 12. Devereux. The name is Old French for from Vreux, a great city in Upper Normandy that had been a Roman fortress 1,000 years before the conquest. William, Count of Vreux, is one of the 15 proven companions of William the Conqueror, named by William of Poitiers as fighting at Hastings, and he was a first cousin to the Duke himself. His descendants would be granted vast estates on the Welsh border, and in the 15th century a branch of the family would rise to become Viscounts Hereford and Earls of Essex. One of them, Robert Devereux, 2nd Earl of Essex, would famously be the favorite of Queen Elizabeth I before losing his head to her executioners in 1601. If your name is Devereux, your bloodline was cousin to the Conqueror of England, and later stood inches from the throne of the greatest queen the country ever produced. Number 11. Gifford, also spelled Gifford. another of the 15 proven companions. Walter Gifford, Lord of Longueville, is recorded by William of Poitiers as fighting at Hastings with such distinction that he was named among the most renowned warriors of all time. His grandson was created the first Earl of Buckingham. The Giffards of Buckinghamshire built castles from Long Crendon to Twyford, and their name is stamped across half a dozen English villages that carry the label Gifford to this day, from Weston Gifford to Stoke Gifford. In America, the spelling collapsed most often to Gifford. If your name is Gifford, your bloodline held the standard beside William the Conqueror on the ridge at Hastings when the Anglo-Saxon shield wall finally broke. Number 10. Talbot. The name may come from the Old Germanic personal name Talbot, meaning messenger of destruction, or from an Old Norman word for the black war-paint bandits used on their faces. Either way, the meaning is grim, and the family lived up to it. A knight named Geoffrey Talbot appears in the Domesday Book of 1086 for Essex, and Richard Talbot appears in the Domesday Returns for Bedfordshire that same year. Their descendants would rise to become Earls of Shrewsbury, the oldest surviving earldom in the English peerage. One of them, John Talbot, the first Earl of Shrewsbury, would be so feared by the French that Shakespeare wrote him into the play Henry VI as the terror of the 100 Years' War. If your name is Talbot, your bloodline was branded in the darkest corners of Norman folklore as the messenger of destruction, and it lived up to the name for 400 years. Number 9. Beaumont. From the village of Beaumont in Normandy, the name literally meaning beautiful mountain. Robert de Beaumont, later the first Earl of Leicester, is the first name William of Poitiers records among the 15 proven companions of William the Conqueror at Hastings. He was still a young man in the autumn of 1066, riding in his first battle, and he commanded the right wing of the Norman army against Harold's shield wall. The chronicler wrote that he performed feats of valor worthy of perpetual remembrance. His descendants would become Earls of Leicester, Earls of Warwick, and among the greatest baronial houses of medieval England. In America, the surname has spread from Louisiana Bayou country to New England town greens. If your name is Beaumont, your bloodline commanded the very wing that broke the shield wall of Harold Godwinson and ended Anglo-Saxon England forever. If you want to know how deep this goes, you need to see the top 8. Because the surnames you are about to hear are not merely Norman. They are the seed families of English kings, Scottish crowns, and the last standing ducal seat in northern England. If you have ever suspected your family name was hiding something ancient, subscribe now so you don't miss the moment your own surname surfaces in this countdown. Number 8. Sinclair, also spelled Saint Clair and Saint Clair. The name comes from Saint Clair-sur-Epte in Normandy, the very village where in 912 a treaty was signed granting the Viking warlord Rollo the land that would become the Duchy of Normandy itself. So this surname carries a symbolic weight almost no other name in this list can match. The Sinclairs came to England with the Conqueror and moved north into Scotland by the late 1200s, where they were granted the barony of Rosslyn in Midlothian in 1280. Their descendant William Sinclair, 3rd Earl of Orkney and 1st Earl of Caithness, built the most mysterious church in northern Europe, Rosslyn Chapel, in the 1440s, its ornate carvings later linked in modern legend to the Knights Templar. If your name is Sinclair, your bloodline stood in the founding village of Normandy itself, and later carved secrets into the stones of Rosslyn. Number 7. Fitzgerald. The prefix Fitz comes directly from the Old Norman French word fils, meaning son of, and it is one of the most unmistakable markers of Norman ancestry in the English-speaking world. The Fitzgerald dynasty was founded by Gerald Fitzwalter of Windsor, a Cambro-Norman knight whose sons crossed from Wales into Ireland in 1169 during the Anglo-Norman invasion of that island. His descendants would become the Earls of Kildare and Earls of Desmond, and for 400 years they were the most powerful family in Ireland outside of the crown. In America, the name would eventually be carried by an Irish Boston family, whose son, John Fitzgerald Kennedy, would become the 35th President of the United States. If your name is Fitzgerald, your bloodline is a Norman conqueror's bloodline that never went home, that carried its castles across a second sea, and that reached the highest office in the Republic. Number 6. Mortimer. From the village of Mortimer in the Seine maritime region of Normandy, its name meaning the Dead Sea or the stagnant pool. A Norman castle stood at Mortimer from an early date, and by 1066 the family was already famous for the Battle of Mortimer in 1054, in which Norman knights had crushed a French royal army. Ralph de Mortimer, who came to England with the Conqueror, was granted the great border fortress of Wigmore in Herefordshire. 2 centuries later, his descendant Roger Mortimer, 1st Earl of March, would seduce Queen Isabella of France, wife of King Edward II, help her depose and murder her own husband in 1327, and rule England as her lover in all but name for 3 years until the young King Edward III had him hanged at Tyburn. If your name is Mortimer, your bloodline once ruled a kingdom through the bedchamber of a French queen. Number 5. Montgomery. From the twin villages of Saint-Germain de Montgomery and Saint-Foy de Montgomery in Normandy. Roger de Montgomery was one of William the Conqueror's most trusted counselors and was created the first Earl of Shrewsbury after the invasion, one of the very first English earldoms Norman hands ever created. He was granted the entire Welsh border county now called Montgomeryshire, which still carries his family name on the modern map of Wales more than 900 years later. The Scottish line of the family, Clan Montgomery, would produce Alexander Montgomery, the 6th Earl of Eglinton, and in America the surname is stamped on 17 counties in 17 different states. If your name is Montgomery, your bloodline gave its name to an entire county of Wales that has never been renamed in nearly 1,000 years. Number 4. Neville. The name is Norman French, from either Neuville in Calvados or Ninville in Seine-Maritime, both meaning simply the new town. Gilbert de Neville is named in medieval tradition as a companion of William the Conqueror, who commanded part of the Norman fleet that crossed the Channel in 1066. But it was in the 1400s that the Nevilles became the most terrifying family in England. Richard Neville, 16th Earl of Warwick, known to history as Warwick the Kingmaker, was the wealthiest and most powerful nobleman in England during the Wars of the Roses. He personally placed 2 different kings on the English throne, deposed one of them, and died sword in hand at the Battle of Barnet in 1471. His feud with the Percy family across the northern border would help ignite the entire Civil War. If your name is Neville, your bloodline chose the kings of England the way lesser men chose horses, and it did so from a Norman village called simply the New Town. Number 3. Bruce. From the village of Brix, formerly known as Bruy, near Cherbourg on the Cotentin Peninsula of Normandy, where the ruins of the original family castles still stand overlooking the Western Sea today. Robert de Bruce, 1st Lord of Annandale, was a Norman knight who came into England in the reign of King Henry I and was granted the great northern lordship of Skelton in Yorkshire, before being given the wild borderland of Annandale in southern Scotland by his friend and companion King David I around the year 1124. His descendant Robert de Bruce, 8th of the name, would be crowned King of Scots at Scone Abbey in March of 1306 under the name Robert the Bruce. 8 years later, at the head of a Scottish army outnumbered nearly 3-1, he would shatter the massive invading force of King Edward II of England at the Battle of Bannockburn on the 24th of June, 1314, and win Scotland its independence for the next 4 centuries. A genetic marker known as FTB 15831 has since been identified by researchers at the University of Strathclyde in the male line descendants of the Bruce family at Clackmannan, giving modern Bruce men a real chromosomal signature of the king. If your name is Bruce, your bloodline came out of a small stone castle above the Norman coast and ended on the throne of Scotland. Number 2. Warren. Also spelled Warren and Warren. William de Warenne, 1st Earl of Surrey, is one of the very few proven companions of William the Conqueror, whose presence at the Battle of Hastings is confirmed by William of Poitiers himself in the 11th century chronicle Gesta Guilhelmi. He took his name from the family castle on the River Varenne in the region of Bellencombre in Upper Normandy, and he was a cousin of the Conqueror himself, descended from Duchess Gunnar of Normandy, wife of Duke Richard I. In the years before Hastings, he had already proved himself in the Norman civil wars, winning the Battle of Mortimer in 1054, where he crushed a French royal invasion of the duchy. For his loyalty at Hastings, he was rewarded with the rape of Lewes in Sussex, and by the time of the Domesday Book in 1086 he held lands in 13 English counties, ranking as the third or fourth wealthiest man in the entire conquered kingdom, richer than almost every other baron in England put together. He built the fortresses of Lewes Castle in Sussex, Castle Acre Priory, and its earthen fortress in Norfolk, and the great round tower of Conisbrough Castle in Yorkshire, a keep so ingeniously designed that it still stands intact today. He died in 1088 from an arrow wound suffered in the service of King William II. If your name is Warren, your bloodline is one of the 15 names historians will vouch for by their own hand as having stood on the field of Hastings, and it built one of the wealthiest houses ever raised on English soil. Number 1. Percy. This is the ultimate Norman surname carried in America today, and no other bloodline in England has held its ground as long, as visibly, as this one has. William de Percy took his name from the village of Percy-en-Auge in Calvados, Normandy, and arrived in England around 1067, just months after the conquest, in the company of Hugh d'Avranches, the man who would soon become the first Earl of Chester. By the Domesday Book of 1086, William de Percy held no fewer than 118 manors in Lincolnshire and the North Riding of Yorkshire, with further estates stretching south into Essex and Hampshire. He built 4 great castles across the North Country, at Topcliffe, Spofforth, Sneaton, and Hackness, founded Whitby Abbey on the Yorkshire coast, and died within sight of Jerusalem on the First Crusade in 1096. His descendants, the House of Percy, became barons of Alnwick, then earls of Northumberland, and finally, dukes of Northumberland, and they seized the mighty border fortress of Alnwick Castle in the year 1309, which they still occupy 9 centuries later. Sir Henry Percy, known to the northern balladeers as Harry Hotspur, was killed at the Battle of Shrewsbury on the 21st of July, 1403, fighting the king he had helped place on the throne. His family's bitter feud with the Nevilles across the Wars of the Roses lit the fuse of English Civil War. Prisoners of the Crown, marchers on the Scottish border, immortalist in the plays of Shakespeare, the Percys have never bowed and never left. And the current head of the family, Ralph Percy, 12th Duke of Northumberland, sits at Alnwick Castle today as the direct male line heir of a Norman knight who followed William the Conqueror ashore in the fall of 1066. If your name is Percy, your bloodline never lost the castle it seized, never surrendered the coronet it was granted, and still holds northern England nearly 1,000 years after William the Conqueror handed it to your ancestor. If your name is Percy, tell us in the comments, and tell us which name on this list came closest to your own. Then subscribe, because the next bloodline we open up may be older than any name we have named tonight. And the Viking dynasty behind the Norman conquest itself is the one you have not heard about yet.